this for you guys. Enjoy.
Welcome to We the Thunder. It's Shooter with your guy Stash.
Who wants a mustache ride?
And Thomas Schooley.
It's time to go to school, Jackson.
And we just watched the Lightning get destroyed by the Florida Panthers. I wasn't expecting that. But don't worry. We are going to show up for the post-game show. We've got a good show coming for you. We've got runner-up media, and they're going to talk about basically like the almost Hall of Fame. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and we're going to judge some jerseys, some of the new jerseys that have come out over the last month. And we're also going to break down this game that we just watched. So let's throw it to Stash in the basement here. What are your thoughts so far, Dan? We'll talk about the All-Star game a little bit too. But where do you want to start?
I don't know. I don't feel like it overall looked like a 7-1 game. I feel like they started out playing pretty well. The first period was okay. We kind of went back and forth. Florida looked a little bit hungrier, but I don't feel like either team really outplayed each other too much, even though they had that goal. And then to give up the second goal in the second period there was a weak play. It was a bad play, a turnover. But then Kucherov comes right back and scores. Looks like they had him right back in it. And then it just, I don't know, man. Then it was just a matter of the Lightning were just off like a tick. It wasn't like they were playing terrible hockey. It was just a little bit of a bad bounce. Maybe the pass didn't get all they were making plays that normally were scoring. And Bobrovsky kept them in that game early. And then after that, it was every mistake the Lightning made, the Panthers were able to capitalize on it. So it's just like when Hedman was talking after the last game, if they don't beat themselves, they're hard to beat. They definitely beat themselves tonight. Some bad plays. I mean, even, Cernak, they were talking about him on the broadcast. I mean, he was -4 tonight. When does that ever happen? He just had a bad night and like a couple of bad plays and a bad play from Vasilevsky. And I really think that goal that Vasilevsky gave up was kind of indicative of the game, where it was just a little bit not mentally sharp overall. Like, again, I don't think they played terrible, but I just think that they made a few mistakes and the Panthers were able to capitalize on them.
Schoolie, did you watch the game?
Yeah, I thought the break came at the worst time right now for the Lightning. And it seems like every time they have an extended break, they don't play well when coming out of it. We did start the game. Cirelli was actually in the starting lineup, took warm-ups, and then all of a sudden he did not come out at the beginning of the game. Paul got moved up, and then you saw the lines get shuffled around. Cirelli, he came out in the middle of the first period finally. Came back out, but I thought it was a bad time for the break. They were going hot. Too bad. I mean, good thing it was a road game because we got that home streak going. We are playing back-to-back games, so tomorrow night see Elliott against Sharks, and hopefully win another one at home.
Yeah, 3 games in a row going into the All-Star break, and it was nice the team got kind of an extended break, although they're one of the first teams to come back. Because a couple teams were playing up until Wednesday, but
they all had the same exact amount of days off. It's just they played up until the All-Star break, so they all have exactly 7 days off.
Yeah, tonight they, as a lot of the comments said, they looked like they're still on vacation tonight. And I thought it was a total team effort of just getting outplayed by the Panthers. And I kind of wonder if, we saw a lot of the Lightning guys go on vacation. We saw the pictures and stuff like that. And I wonder if the Panthers guys were a little bit more locked in because they probably just stuck around. And, even if you don't make the All-Star team when it's in your city, you're still involved in a lot of the events and stuff like that. So it's not like they're probably taking off on vacations, quite like the Bolts were. So just surprising to lose to the Panthers in that fashion. But hey, that happened tonight. I don't really even remember the last time the Panthers beat us, so can't really complain too much about it.
Yeah. And again, like I say, these kind of games, man, 7-1, they aren't as bad as it looks. You know what I mean? Like just because a team loses 7-1 doesn't mean that they're a bad team. They just had a bad night tonight, and everything that was going good for the Panthers was going great. And anything that was trying to get going for the Lightning, they couldn't sustain anything. So, these games happen.
Bob just came off of IR too.
Yeah, he was looking stellar.
Activated today. He had 0 practices, or he just got activated today and was put right into the net, and he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to play today.
No, I didn't either, and he made a couple of really good point blank saves there, especially like I said early on in the game. He's what kept it close, and then the Lightning just couldn't keep it together after that second period.
Yeah, it was the second period where it kind of slipped away. I thought they had Tkachuk got, I think it was his first goal, goes up 3-1. It was a nice goal, kind of bad luck. It went off Chernak, I think, of all people, or was it Bogo? I forget who it went off.
No, hit Bogo's hand,
and then just kind of popped up in the air.
And then he was
Chuck,
able to
maybe he should sign with the Marlins and be a dual sport player because added that thing right in the net. But it was after that when the Lightning got gifted 2 power plays and just couldn't get anything going. And on the second power play, they didn't even really have a shot, which drove me crazy because then we saw Montour 2 minutes later take a shot from the blue line, gets deflected, goes right in. I mean, you can't win these games without shooting, and you can't win them without scoring on your power play chances when you get them.
Well, it's just like that Kucherov's goal that he scored. I mean, that's where he shot from up the blue line and screen with 2 or 3 players between him. Bobrovsky's not even expecting a shot to come from that area at that point. So, that's the thing sometimes with this power play is it does get very cute and it gets very deliberate. And I feel like they're always looking for the same kind of plays to get it in closer to the net and in that slot area. And it allows the penalty kill to collapse in front of the net. And then you're not going to get a shot on goal or any of those passes through when they've got the penalty killers, in that kind of diamond formation, that skewed kind of box rhombus thing that they do there defensively. They choke off the passing lanes. And so sometimes I do wish that Coop would maybe go to that second power play unit a little sooner, especially after the first, like say on the second power play, the first power play, they weren't getting it done. And he does it sometimes. I wish he would do it more. Maybe that second power play starts with the second unit and they get the first opportunity to try and get the puck in there and create something. And then if not, boom, you get that first unit back out there. But along that lines too of lines, Orozco here's in the chat asking about where the hell Nick Paul has been. But again, this is, to me, we talked about it a few times here recently. This is a product of Cooper tinkering, and now he's on that line. He got moved down to the third line. He's down there with Maroon and Colton, who, I mean, that's a questionable third line, really, if you ask me right now, in the way that Cooper has this roster set up. It's very top heavy right now. That Killorn, Cirelli, Hagel line isn't scoring as much as we probably would want them to, or as much as Cooper would want them to. And so that top line, when Stamkos is up there, is really taking a lot of heavy lifting in games like this. And it seems like, it finally in the third period, it looked like Coop kind of made that switch and put Stamkos back there, out there with Cirelli and Killorn. But then it was like 5:20. It was too little, too late at that point, So I'll be interested to see. And we talked about this going into the break, coming out of the break. I'll be interested to see what Coop does with the lines, and if he kind of goes back to putting Stamkos on that second line, and then maybe doing something with that third line, getting Paul someone a little bit more dynamic to play with. Because as much as we like Colton, I still think he's finding his game, and I still think he is reliant on being with a little bit more experienced players out there. Whereas Paul thrives when he is out there with guys that have experience and he knows exactly where they're going to be. So, we'll have to see what Coop decides to do coming out of this game and here on this road trip, because this month we'll be on the road more than we'll be at home. It's about an even split, but we've got another 4-game road trip out west, and then Detroit and Pittsburgh at the end of the month on the road. So it'll be interesting to see how this team responds and if Coop decides that it's time to start tinkering with the lines a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's going to keep them the same tomorrow. I mean, that's the good news about this game is they get to play tomorrow.
And I thought something they're missing was that grit that they had right before they went into the All-Star game. They started getting very physical. We talked about at the last show that the last couple of games they had seemed to get physical, and tonight's game, I think Florida was trying to get physical, and Tampa Bay, and you kept hearing even Egblom kept saying, "Oh, this is going to get physical. This is going to get physical," and it never got as physical.
And then the guy towards the end of the game that wanted to fight was Stamkos. I'm like, why is the captain of the, I guess that's why he's doing it, because he's the captain of the team and nobody else is, doing anything this game. But like Maroon, Perry, that's pretty much your job here. Like, go.
Oh, I mean, it was a specific play that happened in the back behind the net, and those guys weren't on the ice at that point. You know what I mean? So,
but they were on the ice the next shift. I mean, nothing happened. I mean, at that point, it didn't really matter. But those guys need to know their role and step up in a game like this.
And how Sorelli ended up getting a penalty out of that and getting tossed to the locker room, I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, Sorelli's been a real big question mark for me the last couple weeks. I mean, he's had chances where he's just kind of missed pretty open nets. He had one really good chance tonight, and then the whole thing with him at the beginning of the game, he's gone, he's out there. What's going on with that kid?
Yeah, I don't know. He's definitely taking a little bit longer to get back to his normal play coming off of that injury than I expected him to. Really. So
I thought he was still looking good defensively. Just not offensively. But I thought he got back to his defensive like he had been on the PK and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, taking Paul out of that spot and putting him there, I'd rather see Paul back up in that spot. Paul gave us, I thought, more of a threat up there.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, let's transition. Not much to talk about with the rest of this game. We know where the Panthers stand until they can beat us in the playoffs.
There was Coop's interview tonight. He said he wasn't concerned about tonight. He's concerned about tomorrow and how they'll respond.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So he's going with the old hangover. The old all-star hangover.
Games like this don't happen very often to us, but it would be really interesting to see how we come out tomorrow.
Well, while you're out there watching, we're going to bring on our guest. Give us a like or a share. We know it's not exactly a rowdy crowd tonight after a big loss. I don't think we've ever had a post-game show where we've lost that badly. So we got prizes for you. We've got a Valentine's Day special. That's right. Do you know what the ladies love? Of course you do. Yep. And you're wrong. It's not flowers on Valentine's Day. It's coffee.
It's coffee.
Monkey cold coffee. Do you want your wife to be lugging around the house, smelling the daisies, the roses, the flowers that you get her, and just kind of in that sleepy flower sniffing mode all day on Valentine's Day? No. Take one sniff of monkey cold coffee and then put it in your coffee machine and brew it and give that to your honey buns, your Valentine. And I guarantee you're going to have a much better night. You know why? She ain't going to fall asleep on the couch when you're watching that new Netflix movie. No, She's going to be wide awake because she's going to be wired on some monkey cold coffee. And guess what? If you order it by Thursday, it can be delivered to your home and you can get 10% off with the code, which is open until Thursday. Heart 10. That's right. Heart 10. Don't take my word for it. Here comes my lovely bride, all jacked up on coffee. No, I'm just kidding. She didn't have any today. She's asleep. See what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, listen, it's not wake up and smell the roses anymore. It's wake up and smell the monkey cult. All right. Bourbon chocolate chip. Go get it. It's freaking amazing.
And that's good for if you want one of these awesome tumbler style cups or a mug or a shirt. You can use that code on those. So go check that out. Help out our folks there at Monkey Cold Coffee. And don't forget, the Bolts are back tomorrow night. SeatGeek's got your seats. WTT Pod. Use the code. It's only good for your first time buying, but once you buy once, you're going to see the value of SeatGeek. I'm almost doing it like they're watching tonight. All right, enough of that. We've got a guest. We're gonna bring you into the evolution of sports tonight. Ari had reached out and got my attention with the headline about Vinny LeCavier, and I was like, I always listen when someone says Vinny. Yeah. So let's bring on Ari from Runner Up Media. And
what's up, guys?
How's it going? I totally tried to blame you on Twitter for the loss tonight, but
yeah, I was gonna say presumably better than you guys and the Tampa Bay Lightning team. It was the first Lightning game I watched this year, and it was not a pretty one. It was more similar to the Habs games I've been watching this year, so I understand the pain.
All right, so
the Canadians do have the Panthers' first-round draft pick this year, so I was rooting for you guys tonight.
There you go. Yeah, so a rare loss for our Lightning, but you had brought up a pretty interesting concept to us that you guys are doing there at Runner Up Media. Why don't you go ahead and explain kind of what you guys are doing there? And I'm going to put the links for your socials in the chat here so people can start to follow you. But you are doing a Hall of Very Good Players?
Correct. So, yeah, we're basically building an online Hall of Very Good Players with the idea that, there are so many players we spend watching countless hours on our TV. They don't make the Hall of Fame, and they'll get inducted into the Ring of Honor, something along those lines. Maybe they'll end up as an analyst, a commentator, but for the large part, they kind of fall out of the spotlight, and we don't really give them their flowers per se, their recognition. And we get to know them so well over the countless hours that we spend watching them, and so we kind of thought of this idea to, why don't we cover them? Why don't we induct them to a Hall of Very Good Players and have some fun and sort of stir up that nostalgia and create conversation on the sort of the peripheries of who belongs in the Hall of Fame, who doesn't. Are there players who should be in the Hall of Fame? Maybe there are players in the Hall of Fame who really are just very good. I think, for anyone who follows baseball and the Baseball Hall of Fame, we saw a lot of uproar with Scott Rowland's induction on both sides. And I think that's kind of where we want to fit in, is kind of having those conversations and talking about these very good players, because there are a lot of great players out there. Not all of them can make the Hall of Fame. So yeah, runnerupmedia.com. You can check us out. We're inducting a couple players a week, where I appreciate you guys having me on as we're in our Tampa Bay sort of stretch run here. So yeah, last week on the Tampa Bay front, we had Ben Zobrist of the Rays, so people can tell me if we got that one right or wrong, and of course Vinny LeCavier, which was probably the easiest option we had. So yeah, that's kind of the 10,000 foot view of what we're doing, and a lot of content on our blog, content across our TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, where basically tonight I've just been getting yelled at by these guys about ruining the game for them. So yeah, we're really just trying to have some fun, create good content, sort of create this niche community sports fans and sports fanatics that I know exist. And yeah.
Cool. So let's throw it out there to the chat and into the guys here. I want 2 answers from everyone. The Hall of Very Good Players, Tampa Bay Lightning edition. I think we only have, definitely less than a handful of players in the NHL Hockey Hall of Fame. So, but beyond that, who else are from the Tampa Bay sports market should be in the Hall of Fame? So we're talking Bucks, we're talking the Rays, we'll throw the Magic in there for NBA, soccer, long soccer history in this town. Curious what you guys think, and we'll start with the stats. Do you agree with Vincent Lecavalier being in the Hall of Very Good Players? And if so, or if not, who else from the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Ari kind of nailed on this one. Like, of all the players in Tampa, I think VL4 is probably the number one guy that's not going to quite make the Hall of Fame, but probably has a good case to make it. But I think he just was like maybe 1 or 2 seasons short of really having, like, if his career hadn't fizzled out so quickly and he would have kind of tapered off instead of just kind of dropped off, I think we might have had a case for him actually making the Hall of Fame. So I definitely think for sure that VL4 would be the top of the Lightning list. But I think I would probably put Brad Richards right there too, because I don't know if he's going to make the Hall of Fame, but I think he is probably right there with the Lightning players of the best guys to play for that franchise that aren't probably going to make it in the Hall.
Thomas, you got anyone besides Vinny?
Hobby Bolin. Nikolai Hobby Bolin would get a lot of votes in the Tampa area. I definitely think BL4, it definitely is in any kind of Tampa Bay Mount Rushmore here. Vinny really put the Lightning on the map just by the energy that he brought to the team. And he was the first player that actually had a charity here. And still to this day has a whole wing of a hospital named after him, a children's hospital at that. So VL4s will always be remembered here in Tampa and loved here in Tampa.
So who was your close second?
Nikolai Hobby Bolin.
Hobby Bolin.
Yeah. Which I got to say, it's pretty, I've been railing on this since they started the local hockey Lightning Hall of Fame, and that he wasn't part of that first group of people to vote for. I thought that was a big oversight personally.
Yeah.
But that list is really long, and you got to have guys like Crisp up there. You got to have Fedotenko. You got to have Yeah, I mean, I don't understand necessarily what that. Yeah, but
didn't do much in this town, but he is loved by the fans.
He's so loved. But yeah, I think Ari, you guys definitely nailed it with Vinny Lecavalier here as the first guy coming out of the Lightning fan base, or the Lightning players to not make the Hall of Fame, but definitely the top of the very good players.
And just to explain,
and I have a question for you guys regarding Vinny. So, I think you said it right. Like, if he tapered off a bit more and put up a couple more solid seasons after, I mean, his peak was really high, but it was only really, the peak was like 2 seasons. He was really good leading up to it. Do you think that in a sense he was sort of bogged down by the enormous expectations that he came into the league with in the long run, whereas he was almost, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was, that number 1 pick who dominated juniors, and he was sort of like that, had like that Michael Jordan sort of like number 1 pick expectation, and he was awesome, but like it's almost impossible to live up to that. So do you think that in the long run maybe that might have hurt him? And
no, I think the trade to Philly is what ruined him, because I think he lived up to pretty much his expectations here in Tampa. There was nobody more loved on that organization than Vinny Lecavalier. But when that trade happened to Philly, his his career never went anywhere. Had he done a couple seasons there in Philly, I think he's for sure a Hall of Famer. I even think if the years that he put here in Tampa, if that was the end of his career, he could have been a Hall of Famer. If he would have won that Stanley Cup towards the end of his career and had the leading up with the Rocket Richard and everything else leading up to that, he could have. But everybody forgets your first couple of years. They always remember how you went out. And I think Vinny
100%.
in Philly and then going to the Kings really tarnished him.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much he had left in the tank. That's kind of why they sent him to Philly, because he wasn't playing up to the contract when they gave him that crazy extension, because he also was one of those first guys that got that really high dollar extension. You know what I mean? And so he fell off. And he would, if he hadn't have fallen off so quickly, they would have kept him. They would have still seen value. Even 80% of his contract, he would have stayed here because of what he meant to this franchise and this community. I just don't think they had enough value in him. And they saw the younger guys, the writing was on the wall with the talent they had coming up, and that they needed to kind of shift in a new direction, especially with Stamkos and, Hedman coming in. Like it was pretty obvious, I think, at that point that it was time for him to move on. So, yeah, I mean, moving to Philly didn't do him any favors, but I also don't think that he had what he needed to have to stay here in Tampa.
But his last year here in Tampa, 39 games played, 10 goals, 22 assists, 32 points. So I mean, he almost had as many points as he had games. You do that today, and it's ridiculous. His first year in Philly, 69 games, 20 goals, 17 assists, and then he just tapered down below.
That Philly team sucked too, though.
Yeah, it did.
And the Lightning weren't feeling all that great when they moved him either. They were still just kind of getting their feet underneath them. So, I mean, Cooper wasn't even here yet. So,
I think you guys nailed it. I think Vinny is a very good player, and he came short of hitting the Hall of Fame. So that's the guy that I'd put right in that spot, right in the Hall.
Because by far he would have been the first one that hung in Amelie's Raptors. Had it not been, he had to wait a year to retire, and that's the only reason why. And I see this, I'm right, saying don't play MSL 26. He's already in the Hall of Fame. These are people that are not going to make the Hall of Fame that could possibly be Hall of Famers from Tampa, but didn't get in.
And at this point, Vinny's not going to get in unless they give him, he becomes 70 years old, and they do, they let somebody in that when they.
Or he's part of the Canadians coaching right now, and he becomes a coach.
There we go.
He becomes a coach and wins 3 Stanley Cups.
Win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, but what team's he coaching for, Ari?
He's in the Habs organization now. So
he's going to have to make a change.
And along with Marty St. Louis. So we'll
I know.
True.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I like Monkey Call. But by the way, you missed my ringing endorsement, my live commercial on the fly for Monkey Call.
I actually heard the whole thing. I meant to give you a compliment. It was you're talking about. It was a great endorsement.
Are you going to buy some? You should.
You convinced me. I might.
Get on. You get 10% off right now. It's a good comment, though. I think I know we're talking about players mostly here, but like Nigel Kerwin's got to be in some sort of Tampa Bay Hall of Fame if it ever happens. We know that Bolts are doing; they're starting their Hall of Fame, Tampa Bay, team Hall of Fame. I'm sure he's going to get into that whenever they put his name up there. I don't know about Andre Waugh.
Yeah, I don't know. Like he was a locker room favorite, but he didn't really become popular with the fans until later on. Like, he kind of became a physical guy. And then after those guys kind of moved on, the stories about him kind of came out. And so it became kind of a legend like that. But I don't know.
When you think
the whole 04 team, right? I mean, the whole 04 team is basically idolized in this market. So it's
right. But when you're thinking of this Hall of Fame not in it, think of the jerseys you saw in 04. Think of the jerseys you saw even in the sucky years. You didn't really see a Wall jersey. You didn't see a Cabina jersey. There was a few sprinkled in here and there, but you saw the Vinnies. You saw the Brad Richards. You said Brad Richards. You saw the Hobby Bullens. These were the stars of this team. Brian Bradley, someone mentioned him in the comments. You know, he means a lot here in the Tampa Bay area. So just like, you know, going this year, this team currently in these last couple of years is the most I've seen of a whole array of players. And I don't know if that's because of the evolvement of the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I don't think we've ever seen where, you know, almost every single player is represented at every single game by a jersey. That isn't normal, at least not here. But in the last 5 to 6 years, we've had that. And whether it's the new players, the old players, you still see that. You know, you still see all the new players' names. Where back in the day it was 4 or 5 players and that's all you saw.
Yeah, I don't think that's really common in most franchises. Like, I think most franchises have their 3 or 4 players that everyone buys most of their sweaters, and then maybe you get 1 or 2 fan favorites that might get sprinkled in. You're absolutely right, though. You go to a Lightning game right now, you see 8 or 9, 10 different guys on this current roster. You're going to see their sweaters. You're going to see a Paul. You're going to see a Hagel. People still have their Nemestikov sweaters from before.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean?
Killer, Point, Stamkos, Hedman.
Yeah.
There's Perry. There's Maroons.
Perry everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Belmar.
so
You see Belmar sweaters even. Like, you can see Belmar sweaters at
Colton.
Colton, everywhere. Yeah. So, yeah, you're right. You know, I mean, I still haven't seen an Ian Cole sweater yet. But
I have his family.
Well, but yeah, you know, I mean, I think, and what I love about this RA is that it definitely, what kind of conversation it opens up. You know what I mean? Already, like, we could do an entire show just on this. Like, we could
let's
do an
throw
hour
one more out there.
you know?
Then let's do not Lightning. We'll take a break from our normally scheduled programming on this show. Let's pick from one of the other teams. Here's some suggestions for runner-up. You got Mike Allstott and you got Ben Zobrist. But from the other teams in the area, what one player would you put in that very good Hall of Fame?
I mean, we kind of talked about this last week a little bit when we had a little meeting, but I like Allstott because I don't know why he doesn't make the Hall of Fame. I definitely think he should as a fullback. I think it's an underrated position, and I think that because the position has kind of been weeded out over the last 7 or 8 years, I think it's going to be very hard for guys like him to make it. But I mean, if Moose Johnson is in the Hall of Fame, I don't understand why Allstott isn't. You know what I mean? I mean, those guys were similar, but I mean, Allstott actually ran the ball quite a bit and quite well. If you go look at his highlight packages, he is like, it's like Juggernaut. I always wondered why his nickname wasn't Juggernaut, you know, from the X-Men comic books, because he had that high neck roll. His whole mass was all from like his belly button up. I mean, he had the huge legs. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but that A-Train nickname was very good.
No, I mean, it worked
like a train.
Oh yeah, it worked. I'm just saying though, he looked like Juggernaut out there, and he would just run over dudes, step over dudes. I mean, he wasn't fast. He was physical, and you couldn't take him down. And I mean, I just think that guy deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. So I would probably go like one other guy. You know, I'm right. Says Warwick Dunn. That's one of the guys that comes to my mind right away, but only because of his involvement in the community. He's much more, I think, has a much more impact off the field than he ever really did on the field.
Yeah, but I think he played more games in Atlanta than he did here in Tampa.
No, that's what I'm saying is I think he had a short-lived career here. He just had a much more impact off the field with how many houses he's built and everything. Like, he's built like 30 some odd houses in the Tampa Bay area. So I mean, for me, it's a tough one on the Bucks, man, because most of the great players are going to make it. And then most of the guys that didn't make the Hall of Fame, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, you know? So I don't know, man. I guess Allstott's the good answer there. I don't really know where to go next.
A name I would say outside of Allstott is Martin Gramatica. There's only two kickers that I can think of that really have a name that when you say their name, you know who they are. That's Martin Gramatica and Vinatieri. Those are really the only 2 kickers that were ever mainstream names in the game.
Are
You
they
can go
though?
more in.
Hold on, you
Yeah.
gotta ask Ari that though, because everyone knows Gramatica here because he's still here and he was such a big name at the time. But like, were they here?
I
in
will
the
say I
Gramatica?
do know the name Gramatica. I would throw Janikowski in that mix of the mainstream kicker.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would put Janikowski and Vinatieri probably on tier 1 and maybe Gramatica slightly below it in terms of, you know,
Oh, look at the
you know,
numbers.
people from here maybe.
Okay. I was
But
gonna say
you know, I think
agree with
Gramatica's
that.
definitely higher
more
scoring than Janikowski.
yeah, no, he was better than Janikowski, but
Yeah.
Janikowski was like very well known. You know, he kind of had that mainstream name. He was like
Yeah.
highly drafted. He had the
Punt
big
too.
boot. Everyone wanted him in Madden.
I thought he was.
But
Didn't he
just
punt as well as place kick? I thought he was also punting. I don't remember. Anyways,
no, they had Shane Leckler as the punter
Leckler,
and
that's right.
Janikowski as the
Leckler, that's
kicker.
right.
They had like a duo.
Yeah,
But just to
Leckler was
touch on
pretty good, that's
Allstott,
right.
on what you were saying about Allstott, as I was sort of diving into my research on him, I was shocked he's not in the Hall of Fame. He's the all-time leader in rushing touchdowns for the
Mhm.
Bucks. He's second in rushing yards all time, and he was a fullback.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like he scored a rushing touchdown in the Super Bowl when they won it. Like it was pretty amazing. It wasn't even his main position, but like he was a good runner and like he was just the type of guy you send him through the hole and he's looking to hit someone and he usually would find someone to hit. So
Mhm.
Yeah, he was fun to watch.
Maybe Juravicius might be one of the guys we talk
Oh.
about here.
That's another like fan favorite local.
But that's what I'm
He didn't do-
saying.
he didn't
You
do enough
know,
on
I
the
just don't
field.
know. Right, that's what I'm saying. Like for me, I think it's because, like, even as bad as the Bucks have been, they're really good players. Were Hall of Fame players, and they are making the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean?
Well,
They're
Barber's not in.
well,
I
but
mean,
I think
He
it's
will be.
he's
But
he
we be
will
this
he
time.
should get in,
I
right?
think he'll
he
get
will
in.
be.
So there's one other player that used to have a little bit of momentum, but it seemed to all fizzle away, and that was Simeon Rice.
Yeah.
Mm,
Which
yeah.
is a shocking he hasn't gotten in.
Yeah.
But Simeon was kind of a quiet guy. Like during the game, he let his work speak for him. But I was just hearing this debate on the radio the other day because they're, putting in what's his face, the ex-coach in the Ring of Honor, the one that just won the Super Bowl,
Bruce Arians.
Bruce Arians in the Ring of Honor, before people like Simeon Rice and Martin Gramatica and stuff like that. And they said Simeon was never one of those people who spoke up for himself outside of the game. He was never one that really said, hey, look at me, I'm Simeon Rice. Where Warren Sapp was very vocal. Rondé Barber was vocal. Tiki Barber, his brother, was very vocal. These players that get into the Hall of Fame are very vocal people, and that's one of the things that they also say was an Allstott thing, was he was not a very vocal person.
Mm. Yeah, and I also feel like Simeon Rice kind of like, I guess you're right. I mean, sorry, I had to go take care of my cat who's outside yelling at another cat. Maybe you're saying like he just didn't quite stand out enough amongst all the other Hall of Fame players, even though he might have been one of the better players of them all. He just didn't stand out quite as much. So, but yeah, like I said, it's tough with the Bucks right now because so many of the guys that are supposed to be there are there. So
I got one more for the Bucks. Michael Pittman's biceps, just his biceps, not actually him.
I met him at KFC.
Nice.
You know what? I'll float the idea of creating a Hall of Fame of just specific body parts and see if we can make that work.
You should make the ultimate player in each sport.
That's actually a fun idea. That would be a fun exercise.
Just don't use Bo Jackson's hips.
No, use Tom Brady in his underwear. Obviously, the biggest tweet that came out today overshadowed every news story there was today was Tom Brady's tweet today.
Well, we definitely don't have to worry about him getting into the
Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he just beat it out. Just beat out the Hall of Very
Just
Good
squeaked
players.
in. Just squeaked by.
We'll
What's
see
it,
though.
4
We'll have to wait
years?
5 years to find out.
Is it 4 or 5 years for NFL?
I think it's 5.
5.
In
5.
baseball, it's 5, maybe 4 or 5.
So he'll be in.
I don't think it
Although
matters
that's
much for him.
if he's actually becoming an underwear model like Thomas wishes.
No.
I can't wait.
What
Before it was
about
Stamkos he couldn't wait for. Now it's Brady.
what about we'll do Rays too. We had Zobrist up there. I you know what? After we kind of talked about it and you guys picked Zobrist, and I think the three of us were a little bit maybe surprised by that one. I would totally go with Zobrist. I mean, he had more success, when he left here and won the World Series, won MVP of the World Series. But he was just like an all-around great player. He could pretty much do it all. And
Yeah, and
really had
I think with Zobrist, like, you guys were saying this whole idea sort of opens up the door for so many different conversations to happen, right? And I think the Tampa Bay Rays, who you select from there, whether it's Zobrist or Carl Crawford, Carlos Pena, other guys that you sort of mentioned, I think those examples and sort of who you decide is the right one, because you can make real arguments for any of them. I think that's sort of where such great conversation comes in, because I think that Zobrist, his thing was like, he was a very good player for 10 years, basically 10, 11 years. Very good. Whereas Crawford was like an elite player for 3-4 years and then kind of tapered off when he left the Rays. Pena had, what was it, 3 to 5 monster years and then kind of was on the periphery outside of that. So it's like, where do you go? Do you want the guy who was very good for an extended period of time? Do you want the guy who was elite for a short period of time and then kind of couldn't get back to that level? So yeah, I think, the Rays decision, however you might have it, is really kind of like a symbol of the conversation that this whole little thing can create.
I mean, there'll be nobody as loved in Rays history as Phillips was, but he's just 1 year removed from the team. So, but that man was something special here in the Rays organization and for the fans. But yeah, when we had this little meeting with you the other day, we were debating this, and I still say Carlos Pena or Carl Crawford over a Zobrist. But like you and Shooter both said, you can make an argument for Zobrist. He was very liked. He was an all-around utility man here. He played every position. So it'd be interesting.
He was also one of the few players who escaped this organization and was still able to play really good baseball.
Yep.
Think about it. Everyone else that they let go, like kind of took a nosedive when they left here for the most part. And
well, yeah, Shields had a couple years and then he went down. Garza had 1 year and then he went down.
Snell's still dealing them out west now. So, I mean, it's tough with the Rays because they're such a young organization that,
you bring up things like that. I mean, talking about guys like Scott Kazmir, I mean, I think that's a guy you put up there on this list that had he stayed here, again, it's almost like we were talking about with the Cavier. Had he been able to stay here and they didn't pay him too much money, and then I think he could have stayed and still been an ace on the staff and still created a much better resume for himself instead of having to go and then injuries and a staff that didn't quite know him as well. He had to go start doing different things rather than the same.
Longo too.
Yeah. And we thought about Longoria as well. I don't know. I don't think he quite did enough to make the Hall of Fame. So I definitely think he can make this list too. So
I was gonna say Longoria is gonna fall short of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
If we had asked that question
because of his Giants career,
he was a shoo-in. Yeah, but I mean, he's done nothing on the Giants. He's only hurt his case, but he didn't quite do enough with the Rays either. He just, I mean, injuries started to get to him at the end of his time on the Rays, and he's like he has a very interesting career because he was so good right away, and then after 25, he like kind of started to fall off. It's very
because he's
Yeah.
an arrogant ass. But he literally flew back here just a couple weeks ago and told the Rays and came out publicly and said he told the Rays he wanted to come back, and the Rays said no thanks.
We're good.
Yeah,
well. They don't.
I-
They definitely. And then they went inside Yandy Diaz, right? So they don't need
right.
him.
Yeah,
They
I
check
mean,
the analytics real quick. No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Like we can't. We don't have $5
Yeah,
to give up on
yeah.
you, and we don't want you. We're good.
Well,
Can you
you
please-
know, also right when he left too, I mean, I feel like he kind of, so he was kind of like that only real big superstar on that team locally. You know what I mean? Like people loved Carlos, and PJ Upton had his time, and yeah, Zobrist was like a fan favorite, but Longo was the nationally known guy. You know,
Oh, yeah.
So
Jersey
if
sails out
you-
the yin.
right, and all across the country. And if you go back and think about it, right when he started getting into the local business scene as an entrepreneur is whenever his game started falling off. He went and opened, he had a restaurant here called Ducky's. Murray, that was his place that he went into. He had a couple other business ventures that he was involved with here. And I remember specifically, like, oh, it was a cool place whenever we went, but it was like, why are you getting involved with this whenever, like, that's what retired athletes do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Athletes get into restaurants and those kind of when they're retired, or towards the very end of their career when they know they're getting ready to retire and they want to have something to transition into. I felt like he kind of was trying to play the big shot athlete in a town that didn't really have a big shot athlete and trying to live up to that. And I think it kind of it affected his performance. And then, you know, how long can you really carry a team and being the only real face and then feeling like everyone around you is just a piece for this season or a couple of seasons, and then you know they're not really building, and they're the where you're playing is worse and worse, and you know there's just so many things that happen towards, you know, that second half of his career. You know,
I think that's a good point, and you know, the Rays are one of the most impressive franchises in all of sports with what they do year in, year out, considering their budget. Like, you know, I'm a Yankees fan, so I see the Rays are almost just as good as us every year.
And that's our time, ladies.
Quarter of the money.
Yeah. First a Canadians fan and then a Yankees fan.
I'm complimenting you guys.
Well, you got it. We knock both of your teams down every year.
Oh, geez.
Let's
Here we
get
go.
hostile there, right?
All right.
But at the same token, it's tough to keep superstars happy when you can't, you know, go for it and try to like build long term around them with other great players at a certain point. You know, it's just the tough situation. That they were very smart to sign Wander Franco to that long term deal early. And their pitching is always ridiculous, but you know, it's kind of the yin and the yang of the situation they're in.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll let you run, man. Keep us posted whenever anything Tampa Bay comes up again with Runner Up Media. And if you're listening, go check it out. runnerupmedia.com. I'll put in the chat here some of the social links, and you can join the conversation. You know, we thought it was interesting and a good idea, and it brings up some really good conversation. So thanks for coming on. I will let you play our next little game here. We're about to get judgy on some NHL jerseys, so I'm going to get your grade here.
All right, let's do it.
This is the NHL All-Star Game jersey that you saw them wear this past weekend on a scale of A through F, A being the best. What do you give these reverse retro All-Star jerseys?
I'm gonna give it like a D plus. Don't love.
I like it, judgy.
Don't love. Hey, you said we're getting judgy. I'm judging. I think we could have done a little better. They had, you know, a full year to plan this out. It sort of seemed like they were, you know, going in a few different directions, and they couldn't pick their lane. So I don't love it.
And when you have 4 teams, you're going to need 4 jerseys. You saw so much during the All-Star game where they were passing to the wrong team because they couldn't decipher the little bit of black on this one, the little bit of pink on this one. If you're going to have 4 teams, you can't just have 2 jerseys. You've got to have 4 jerseys.
Yeah, and I just don't think they went far enough. Like I think
No.
they played it too safe. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, let's go with some Florida Miami colors, but not too much. And let's still make it look like NHL 95 All-Star sweaters. You know what I mean? Like that it looks like the cover from NHL 95 or NHL 94. Like
Yeah, like I don't understand why not go with
Yeah.
the Florida Panthers retro colors.
right.
You know,
Or
something
just
like that.
just go all in on one direction, you know?
Yeah. I mean, this
Yeah.
is Adidas's
Difference
last jersey of the year. So, you know, this is what they have to show for it.
Well,
Good
and
luck.
I still don't understand why they only get like shoulder patches. Like, as long as the sweaters are all the same colors, why can't they put like the main logo of their team, on the front of it? You know what I mean? And so each player still gets his team on the front, but then it's one of these actual colored, you know. And I will say, just looking at the sweaters, they don't look all that great. The whole kit looked better altogether, like especially the black ones with the black shorts. But they still, I agree, it's a C- for me because, like you said, all right, they're going multiple directions, and they just didn't go far enough. I don't think. I don't think they went far enough on it. They could have made a much bigger statement with these.
I'm going B+ for all of the reasons why you guys hate it. Because this is the jersey they wore in the All-Star games in 94, 95.
Yeah,
It's just a slightly different color scheme. So I think they just tried to fit the whole reverse retro scheme in. This was the most memorable jersey because we wouldn't really remember any of the other ones. And
shoving it down our throats.
Nailed it. But I'm not buying one.
Having said
all right,
that,
we'll let you
not
go,
buying
man. Thanks for jumping on and debating with some real master debaters here.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. This was fun, and I'll see you guys on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever, and hopefully we do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
Better luck to the Lightning next game. I'm rooting for you guys.
Tomorrow
All the
night.
best.
Hey,
Yes, sir.
do one last piece of advice for you. Go put all of your money on the Tampa Bay Lightning to win tomorrow night.
You got it. You got it. Well, not all of it. I need 10% to go buy some Monkey Cold coffee.
There you
Oh,
go.
there you go.
Buy that coffee first.
Love it.
All right,
Love
man.
it.
Thanks for jumping on. We'll get you on sometime again soon. But yeah, everyone, go check out Ari and Runner Up Media.
Thanks,
Check
brother.
us out later, guys. Have a good one.
Be safe.
Adios. All right. And Steven in the chat here. That's right. I have joined a second hockey team, the Bull Sharks, and I scored my first goal with the Bull Sharks last night. So
Yeah, and I found out you guys play right around the corner from my house.
come on down. I guess we don't have a game for 2 weeks though, with the whole super football thing going on. All right, so yeah, I like these jerseys. I'm just curious what people in the chat who are still hanging out with us tonight think. Let's take a look at some other jerseys though, shall we? Do you guys know which ones I'm going to pull up?
I mean, I have an idea, but I'm not sure. So
Is it the one where they've showed like the last 10 years or something like that?
Well, let's go chronological order because we've actually seen these jerseys and we've seen them against the Bolts. Hold on, I got like way too many windows going on here, you guys. This is crazy. This is not good. You know what we'll do? We'll just do the whole screen and caboodle here. All right. So a couple weeks ago, the Lightning played against the Vancouver Canucks, and
I love them.
And they rolled out these old school. They're not even their reverse retro jerseys.
No.
They're just like, hey, we're going back to the
retro.
old school skate Canuck. And the funny
Flag
thing is,
skate.
they announced it like I want to say like the week of or like the day before that they wore those jerseys against the
Yeah.
Bolts.
Hold on just for a minute, Shooter. Why do you have a picture of a foot down there? What do you have in your pictures? What's going on in your life right now?
Oh,
What's going on with your life right now? Well, we know what Shooter's into.
everyone has their things.
Oh,
Their fetishes, yeah.
stay focused. Make me hide that. Maybe I was doing my research for Cal Foot grades.
Hate it. Oh, foot.
All right.
Hate.
If we can get Thomas's mind off the foot, we can talk about these Canucks jerseys that we've seen in action. These were what the Canucks wore when they lost in the Stanley Cup Finals to the New York Rangers in 1994, when I was just a young 12-year-old hockey watcher. I don't know. Just kind of like the All-Star game for me. Anything that like brings me back to when I was 12 years old, whether it's, hearing Super Mario Brothers sound in the background, I will like. So
I love these.
I've always loved them. Yeah, I've always loved them.
I think they're very sharp. I think they're a little intimidating.
Yeah.
I like them.
Yeah, they're fierce. I know it's not the same. It's not the same color scheme, but like you say, intimidating school. It reminds me of the Team Iceland sweaters from D2.
Yeah,
how they just kind of had that intimidating like uniform about them. And I feel like Vegas keeps trying to create a sweater that's this, and they keep missing because they kind of stole these colors after Vancouver moved on to their color change, which now they have blue like every other fucking team in the NHL. But I think these are a huge win. I'm obviously all Lightning, and I kind of want to just buy one myself. I kind of just want to get a JT Miller version of this sweater.
I think we've seen them every retro now this season. Not against the Lightning, of course, but we've seen them in other games. And there's two that stand out, and it's this one and the Minnesota Wild.
This isn't a reverse retro, though.
Huh?
This isn't a reverse retro.
Yeah.
No, I know, but just an alternate jersey, Kevin Weeks he's reporting that he believes that they take on the Northern Star colors next year going forward. That he said it isn't solid, but he believes they go back to the Northern Star colors starting next year, which I really like.
See, I don't like those colors, and I don't really like the mustard and ketchup on this one. I like the logo. I like the retro style logo of this one more than anything. I give this one a B, by the way. That's what I'm gonna rate it.
This is an A for me. A solid A.
A for me, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. A couple of Canucks fans that do a podcast.
And I will say though about what you're saying, School. To me, I think that'd be a miss because I understand that that's where the North Star started, but the Stars are the North Stars. That entire franchise moved. It's not like they folded and then came back. You know what I mean? That franchise moved. It's just like whenever the Browns. Cleveland moved and then they started, and then the Browns came. Well, they're not really the Browns, you know what I mean? So, or the
Colts,
the Ravens, yeah, the Colts, like
Colts, Ravens,
yeah, same thing. So, I don't know. I would be cool because I do like that, but I think that they'd get a lot of pushback from the fan base up there if they tried to go to the North Stars color scheme in Minnesota. But moving on, now we have the Arizona
moved teams.
Yeah.
We got Arizona, and I took this this image because it kind of goes through some of the details that were in the jersey, and I think that's what makes this jersey pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
the crescent
I like
moon
the color.
C is cool.
Yeah, and also the A's got kind of like the cactus kind of look to it, and then they do have the cactus on the pant leg.
Yeah, it's two cactus.
The gecko
a lot to kind of
the gecko on the back collar.
Yeah, and then I like that it's got like the pattern on it, like on the sleeves and the waistline, looks almost like ancient Native American cave dwelling built structures. You know what I mean? It kind of looks like
Aztec-y.
Yeah, like the Aztecs or the Pueblo Indians or yeah.
So what are you guys giving it?
I give it a B.
A B plus. I'll give it a B plus because they have, they've got the star in Arizona. The little things that they've done, I think is cool. The attention to detail gives it that plus for me.
Yeah. That's why I give it a B minus, because to me it's just a C without some of these details. And I really want a crescent moon third jersey, and I want it to be purple or black.
Yeah.
So,
I'm with you.
Someday, Arizona, get on it. build that stadium.
Well, I think they need a better stadium first. They start worrying about purple and black jersey.
All right, now we got two more, and these are two that you're going to see in 2 weeks from, I think, this weekend, or it might be 1 week from this weekend, and that is the Stadium Series. Not the Bolts in it this year. The away team is the Washington Capitals. That big old bald eagle in the middle is their secondary logo, and they stretched that son of a bitch out and made it basically the entire jersey.
I was going to say, I want to hear what you think of this first shooter, but I think we just seeing how this was your team as a little shooter.
I'm not as big of a fan as this as I am to their reverse retro jerseys. I like the reverse retro eagle, the one that OV was wearing all weekend with his son, and we'll talk a little bit about the All-Star game before we sign off too.
With the screaming eagle.
I'm not a huge fan of these, and in general, I'm not a huge fan of stadium and outdoor game jerseys in general because I don't like the giant numbers and the giant logos, and something about the colors on the sleeve. I know red, white, and blue is their colors, but it just reminds me of the French flag, so I give it a C.
It looks orange even too. I mean, obviously, it depends on your computer, but like your TV resolution, whatever. Well, no, I'm not saying it's red, but it's almost orange. Is what I'm saying. Like it's a little bit past that like crimson red that they're known for. You know what I mean? It's a little bit too of a bright red. They're known for more of like a blood red, if you will. But I love the eagle, and then the Capitol building in the bottom. I think that's a really cool logo. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I just think they kind of overdo it on these Stadium Series sweaters, but it's obvious why, because when you're, watching football or hockey in a football arena, you need to have the extra large numbers so you know who the fuck has got the puck and who's on the ice. So, but I give this a B-. I think it's a really cool, but yeah, I give it a B-.
I like it. I mean, I wish it would have been like a darker with maybe the white eagle or something, because then I thought it would have been kind of intimidating, that big old eagle coming at you. But I thought it's everything that a Washington D.C. stands for with the Capitol, with the bald eagle. So I thought it was. I give it a B+.
And finally,
yeah.
The home team for the Stadium Series, Carolina, went all black. This is kind of a blackout jersey for them, or kit for them. And I mean, I like it. I like blackout style, but it leaves something to be desired.
Right, it's plain, but I kind of love it. I love the black, and then the hurricane symbol really stands out. So maybe if they did the sleeves all black and just had the hurricane, I give it a C. But I love the black.
They do have kind of like that gray here, that gray stripe too. Which is,
if we're going just on the sweater alone and not the entire kit, because I have a feeling those helmets are freaking sweet. I give this a C just because at first glance you're like, oh, that's pretty dope, and then the more you start looking at it, you're like, it's a little easy, and
it's plain.
And then you go back and it's like, okay, where's the happy medium between the oversized numbers and then maybe these numbers are too small? So like maybe I can't be pleased, you know what I mean? But it's strange. But I give this a C.
Yeah,
a C for Carolina.
I'm gonna give it a B. I like black jerseys. I like blackouts. It's just this one's missing something for me to push it up to an A.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if only the hurricane was the only red part of it, I think it would be more popish.
Yeah,
and it seems very similar to their
regular,
is pretty much their home jersey now.
Yeah.
That's my problem, and especially because you already have the hurricane flag sweater, which is so badass. Like the one that's got the beach flag on it. Is that an angle? That one is so cool already.
Very similar to that one.
Yeah, it's just a different logo, and I think that's why I don't like it that much, because it is pretty similar to the Storm Surge, they call it, I think, or
They've pretty much
Yeah.
gone to that black jersey.
Yeah. They wear that one a lot.
And once again,
Yeah, you know, while you're struggling to share, I could see it.
the picture.
Yeah.
Very,
See,
very
I feel like
similar.
it's very similar to that. So that's probably why I'm less inspired. Because that's a way cooler sweater to me, is why. So
Yeah, and that could be it. That might be the last Adidas jerseys we see. We're moving back to CCM. Talk about reverse retro being the craze this year. We're actually going back to CCM.
And in the comments, Mike asked if we could still buy the Lightning throwback sweater. If we're talking about this season, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely, you can.
They have plenty of them.
More than Abraham had children. They made more sweaters than Abraham's children.
But they only
unlike last season where they only made like 500 of last year's.
They made the same amount of jerseys.
No way.
I got it from someone at the team store. They were same amount of retros, the 2 retros, not the stadium series.
No,
the 2 retro jerseys.
I don't believe it because I don't even see the reverse retros at games. Like I don't even see people out wearing them, and people would.
I do. There's way less out there.
There's way less, I gotta say. But hey, it is what it is. You got it from the source, and I don't really question Thomas Scully's sources when it comes to Amalie Arena. I just find it hard to believe. I find that someone trying to spin a tale that you're going to go tell everybody else and be like, look, we just need to go buy these. Like they're trying to get people to buy them. That's what I think. But and plus they came out with way more players. They have way more players now. They did a second release of available players, which they did not do last year. With last year's retros.
And speaking of things, I just got the okay to announce because the Lightning are officially going to announce it tomorrow. The game on the 28th, you two already know. The game on the 28th is going to be Star Wars night, and that is the next time we play the Florida Panthers. They have brought back the Star Wars game for the first time in 4 years. There was a lot of people asking about it, and
I'll be outside protesting.
And they will.
Live long and prosper, bitches.
Yes.
They are bringing it back on the 28th. So get your tickets now. It is going to be the last time we play the Florida Panthers for the season before the playoffs, and the Lightning will announce it tomorrow.
Yeah,
that's this month, right?
Yeah, that's the last game of this month, the last day of the month. And then also on Thursday, before the Avalanche game, they're going to have the mobile Black History Museum down at Amalie again this season, which I think they started last year doing that. Coming out of COVID, they started doing that, which is really cool. It's just good. That's the only time this year it's going to be down there before the game, I think from like 4:30 or something like that. So if you're down there early, that's a hot ticket, that Colorado game. We want to see that rematch here in our barn, and Colorado's playing a lot better hockey since they've gotten healthy. So that's going to be an interesting game. Hopefully I'm going to be at that game. I'm trying to get to that.
I am not going to be at either of the 2 games this week because I am getting ready to fly to Dallas for the Dallas game on Saturday.
Yeah.
So I will be down in Dallas for the game on Saturday.
I'll be at Ray J for motocross on Saturday night.
I'll be at my grandma's birthday.
Lucky.
Not even my grandma. My grandmas are dead. My grandma-in-law. So I've adopted her. So thrilling.
That's what I have left.
Take her to motocross. Don't love it.
You'll be out of them all. You'll be out of grandma's totally.
It's late. It's late. We're not used to these post-game shows, but
it's been a while.
Start to do some before we get to the playoffs here. I didn't really watch the All-Star game. I was at a All-Star hockey wedding. 2 people from my team, a man and a woman, just to be clear, not that it matters, got married. And it was awesome because it was hockey themed. But I missed pretty much the actual All-Star game because of that. It was in the afternoon. But I did watch the skills competition, and besides the awkward broadcast, which we get every single year with this competition, they did their best.
I loved it, man. I'm going to go on record. I've said this multiple times already in the last couple of days, but whoever was responsible for the concept and the production of the breakaway challenge skits needs to be fired and banned from television and movie production for the rest of their fucking lives.
PK Subban?
Because other than that, it was awesome. I thought it was really cool, man. I thought it was like, last year they did the blackjack shootout in Vegas. This year they did the surfboard thing. They did the thing on the golf course, which, I mean, Florida's synonymous with golfing. I thought it was all really on brand. I thought it was really on brand. I thought it was cool that they had Pat Maroon there, another guy from the Florida hockey team there on the broadcast. I thought the 10D tandem was really cool. The rules were confusing. I think they did a shitty job of explaining the rules to everybody, the players included. But it was really cool. And listen, when it came down to the games, 3-on-3 hockey is awesome, especially when it's the best players on the fucking planet doing it. How do you not want more 3-on-3 hockey whenever you've got Ovi and Sid the Kid out there together, or you've got Kachuk and the Kachuk brothers out there, or some of those lines. I mean, they had Pasta and Cooch were on the line for a little while. Like, I mean, and then that's cool to me. That's what
the only thing that I don't like about it is the defensemen get screwed. Right. There was only 6 defensemen picked for the whole thing. 3 of them were on the Pacific, and that leaves a lot of defensemen out of the All-Star game. So that's the only part I don't like, because now the teams are they're saying they don't need a defenseman if you're paying 3-on-3. So right. I think that's where a lot of these up and coming defensemen really got screwed out of being an all-star, where back in the day, you had to pick your defenseman.
Yeah. And I do like that. Is a very good point. And I guess that's probably an oversight, but yeah, definitely it's pretty bad when you don't have Victor Hedman at the all-star game. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, I understand that, you could take so many guys, and I'm not against the whole one guy from every team, because again, it doesn't really mean anything.
To me, if you're going to do one guy from every team, you got to put at least 2 defensemen for each league part, each division. Yes.
Yeah, and I agree. And listen, I don't understand what you want. I'm right. I don't understand what you want. How you say it's an embarrassment. The only thing that was embarrassing was the skits for the breakaway challenge, because that's become a joke. The last couple of years, the breakaway challenge has become a joke. Other than that,
you didn't like Pasta's Happy Gilmore? Like,
that was cringy. Stupid, and there was no reason for that.
No reason.
So cringy.
Seeing Ovi throw that. Seeing Ovi throw his stick during the All-Star game, that was something fun to see. When he wasn't. I seen a couple people on Twitter being, he could have injured him. You saw Ovi put it on the ice and literally push it on the ice. It wasn't like he chucked it up in the air. It wasn't like he did any of that. He literally slid it on the ice. But I thought that was great to see. I thought that showed a part of Ovi that we haven't seen since he won the Stanley Cup and went to sleep and went in a fountain with the Stanley Cup. So, and he got a bad rep the last couple of years when he's been injured and didn't want to go to the All-Star game. I was really happy to see that he did, because it was nice seeing him and Crosby, even though I can't stand either one of them, doing tic-tac. Same thing with McDavid and Draisaitl, and it was just great hockey. I thought for the sport itself was watching those legends, future Hall of Famers on the ice together.
Yeah, and we'll bring up what next week's guest is. No, 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, we'll have Jay Retcher on, and I was listening to him and Blobner today on their show. And they were talking about something that I think the NHL is missing out on, but it's right there in front of their face. And that's how much of a family environment naturally gets created at these things. You had Ovechkin's kid on the ice. You had the Kachuk brothers playing together. You have generational players that are now starting to come up in this league whose fathers played in this league and were superstars or Hall of Famers. You have brothers when playing on the same. Like, I feel like the more they can highlight those things, especially during the All-Star weekend, and make it more family friendly and more engaging for their families, the better off it's going to be. And, I know this is a Lightning podcast, but if you watch any of the Pro Bowl for the NFL, you saw them kind of going the same route with the dodgeball and the flag football, and they had the Kelsey brothers, and they got that are going to the Super Bowl, and that, and then you got the Manning brothers that were there. You had the Diggs brothers that were, the family aspect of it and the generational aspect that we're starting to see between players being legacy players. I think that's a thing that they could really start focusing on going forward and finding things like that. And it would be interesting to find some skill competitions for the defensemen. All the skill competitions are all about offense and how fast you can skate and how quickly you could take out the four corners and your breakaways and all this. But where's the highlighting of the defensive skills that you need to have to be an elite blue liner in this league? I don't think it'd be that hard to find some things to do,
Figure out
I thought, they had Obi's kid is really the symbol of the All-Star weekend. I remember
the unofficial mascot.
Right. And I remember back in the day, they did more kids on the skills competitions, and I'm gonna steal this real quick. Can I share my screen real quick?
No.
This was the AHL All-Star game tonight.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Well, while you're doing that, one thing that they did for the AHL was cool. They took down the glass at the half boards, so the fans had more interaction with the players. So they weren't between the glass; they were there and able to actually, interact with the players. So that to me was really cool.
I thought I did actually watch a little bit of the NFL's games that last night, and I actually kind of liked what they did with just having kind of these mini games and sprinkling in some 7-on-7 flag football, which is also decent football. There's just no hitting.
Well, the only difference is that they don't have the star power. Like the guys that are going to the Super Bowl aren't going to be there. The guys, there's some injuries. I mean, you had what they were talking. That's the other thing that they were talking about on Rusher J&Z was you had Carr and you had Cousins playing late night.
Carr was auditioning for the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah, well, that would to me was the highlight, and just to get off on a tangent, that was a highlight to me because it was in Vegas. The Pro Bowl was, and he's on his way out. They're gonna have to cut him, or else they owe him $40 million. Then he goes and just tears it up. He tore it up. Yeah, he tore it up on the accuracy. Like second place was 26 points. He got 36 or 37 points. It smoked him. And he's like, if I played that good, maybe I wouldn't be going to another team next year. I wouldn't be leaving.
It was funny because it was in Vegas and that's the team he played for. And they said, have you, and she was like, have you ever done this good in Vegas? and I think she talked with Matt gambling and stuff.
Right.
And then he's like, no, I would still be here. So let me show you this.
Wouldn't be leaving right now.
Let me show you this real quick from the All-Star game. This is from Syracuse Crunches. If it's good. Oh, come on.
I started lagging. I think you need a new modem.
I know. Now I'm starting to look like
you should go steal one from Walmart.
I saw some feet pictures in your background.
I saw some half-naked Stamkos pictures in your back. No, you don't. Keep this private.
Anyway, if those are hidden. If you go on to Syracuse, it's not going to load for some reason. I just watched it twice while I was waiting
Post the link
to do
at
it.
least.
But it's Gabriel Dumont's son scoring on an AHL goalie. And it was really cool that he does his own little celly with the hand up to the ear, almost like Hulk Hogan. fashion. So it was really cute. So if you just go on Syracuse Crunch's Twitter, it's right there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was that bad. I do wish that they would take a little bit of a cue from the NFL and do a couple more actual skill competitions. And if you win those skills competitions, have those points go towards the actual games when they play them. And I honestly wouldn't mind if they just did East versus West again in 5-on-5.
Yeah, I mean, maybe what would be cool is if they did East on West and they did like the 10-minute periods, but then they did like a best of 3. You know what I mean? So maybe you only do play the 2 games, but maybe then it's 1-1-1. You know what I mean? I don't know. But really, I just don't understand the fans just shitting all over it as much as I saw. Like, was the broadcast awesome? No. If I heard Bucci one more time, I was going to punch myself in the face. But, like, it's the worst nickname in all of sports. But Steve Levy doesn't know shit about hockey. Buccigrass hardly knows anything about fucking hockey. PK Subban, I want to punch in the face every time I even think about him, let alone see him on TV. So that was tough for me. But the actual events and the actual players and the engagement and the fun and the camaraderie they have still wins for me. And we still saw the best players in the league there, unlike in the NFL Pro Bowl, or unlike sometimes even at the All-Star game for the Major League Baseball. You're not always seeing the best, most brightest names. You saw the top 10 guys in the league right now were there this weekend, and they all were on display in their own ways, and they all showed why they're so fucking good and why this is a league that, as much as everyone wants to talk shit about Gary Bettman, they gained an extra $500 million in revenue already over last season. They were $5.5 million. They're already over $6 billion revenue this season. So,
but did you hear the TV ratings are way down?
Yeah, well, hey, listen, there's a lot of things that go into that as well, and you could sit here and listen to the negative Nancy's or the Chicken Littles, but there's a few things that they kind of changed in their formats, and they changed kind of when they show games and stuff like that. So they're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I know everyone's trying to figure out for the first 2 months of the season how the hell they just watch a game. So it's it's way too hard in a local market to find your own team.
Well, some of that has to do with television contracts that's outside of the NHL's control. You know what I mean? They can't control the negotiations between Bally and Cox and Spectrum and whatever these fucking big, cable entities are, whoever ultimately owns them, Comcast or whatever. The NHL can only do so much. You know what I mean? So I personally think that the biggest part where the NHL drops the ball is their own network and not having enough content or more content on their own network and relying on other broadcast companies to carry their product when they're playing replays of bullshit 20 out of 24 hours a day on their network. Like only 4 hours a day do they actually have meaningful content on that network that's like up to date, and the rest of it's all replays.
Throw the replay of this up there tomorrow.
Well,
come
hey,
on, NHL, hit me up.
Come on, get at us, Jackie.
I like this idea of going back to the fantasy draft, which they did in the past. I'd be fine if they did World versus North America again. Like, I don't know, rotate it, change it up a little bit. The current format is definitely getting a little bit stale. 3-on-3 is exciting, but is there a different way we can do it?
Yeah, and I agree, Mike. And that's Mike Rotunda coming in the chats, talking about the all-star format has played out. And he said he'd like to see them go to the fantasy draft.
I'm headed out, guys, because I'm going to meet the team at the airport. They'll be home in an hour. So
all right. You do
Are
it.
you gonna give them that look like my mom used to give me when I
what
get
the fuck are you guys doing? You better come out tomorrow and play. So I'll see
the rooms when they get home.
I'll see you guys next Monday after I get a win in Dallas.
All right.
Sounds good.
See you guys.
See ya. All right, finally got rid of him.
God, just taking over. No, just kidding.
No,
Right.
we'll see what they do with the All-Star game. It's due for a little bit of a shakeup, and I guess at the end of the day, it's a celebration.
It's
So
an exhibition of exactly. It's just supposed to be fun. And that's what I thought. More than anything, I really did think that it was fun 2 days down in South Florida.
that's
So
fun. That broadcast gets dragged out though for
it does.
the All-Star competition
Yeah.
skills comp. I don't know how the regular All-Star game was, but even that's a lot of hockey. Like you got stick breaks in between those games, I'm sure.
Yeah. 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 And they were talking about that too. And they were talking to Pasta when he was talking about trying to play with Cooch, that they had sat kind of, they were a little tired, or not tired, but cold, if you will. You know, they hadn't been able to warm up and when they went and played that game. So but I mean, Kucherov showed out, man. I mean, he had a pretty good game. And if it wasn't for Kachuk being a hometown guy, and then Larkin, like, I think Kuch was definitely the third star of the Eastern Division. So
Well, good, because the Atlantic won, and Cooch is going to get a little extra money. So is Vasi, because
get a
that's
little
the
bit of
prize.
quiche.
You get
$1
some
million
cold hard cash for
split
winning that
13
All-Star
ways.
tourney.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Go get your monkey coffee.
Do it.
Get some for
Do it.
yourself. Get some for your Valentine's Day.
I'm telling you,
Maybe
cold
you're
brew's the way to go. Cold
maybe
brew's the
you're
way
a
to go. I'm
shy
telling you.
guy, like the stash used to be, and there's a girl in your class, and you're like, hey, I'm trying to really impress this girl. She's not my Valentine yet, but I want to get her a Valentine's Day card. Don't get her a fucking card. Get her a fucking coffee, a
Get her
delicious
something that's
coffee,
gonna get her jacked.
bourbon chocolate chip flavored.
Yes.
And you are going to have an extra 10% in your pocket by using the code HEART10. You know what you can do? Bring her down to the old ice cream shop Wednesday night.
The old twisty treat. Exactly. You get her coffee and an ice cream. Like, that's way better than flowers and chocolate. Any day. Any day.
Clearly, I am very happily married because I know how to take care of a Valentine.
And on that note, let's get to our guests for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we have a couple shows coming up next Monday night. Back to our normally scheduled program.
I'm so hyped about
9
next week, bro.
p.m. Eastern. A man who works a lot. In fact, he was working tonight, named Dave Randorf, will be in one of these boxes joining us. So come talk to Dave Randorf. Ask your questions. I actually have the 5 lightning questions all ready for him. So
Can't believe it's already been 2 years since we've had him on the show.
Yep, we're gonna have him back. So can't wait for that. He's gonna be calling in from Denver, so his hotel or something. When
Little Rocky Mountain High.
And then we do have Jay Retcher for the first time this season. Big star,
hard man to lockdown.
We're gonna
best shoe game in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, we're gonna ask him what shoes he's wearing, and it's gonna be really awkward when he's at home and he just has no shoes on at all. And then we got the Sticks of Fire new president, Andrew, jumping on to wrap
Andrew
up
Miller.
the month.
Yeah. Andrew Miller from Sticks of Fire will be on.
Yeah, he's going to talk some Bolts hockey with us. And then we're going to go. Well, that's this month, but I did have a little chat with JP Peterson, who was messaging on Instagram today, and he's getting lined up for a March appearance. So we've got a bunch of good shows coming up. And that's right. That has been the show. You got any final words, Stash?
Shout out to everyone that just randomly popped up on YouTube right here. Like we just got 5 or 6 people coming in out of nowhere on YouTube.
They want the Valentine's Day special.
Oh, wait a second. Do you want the Monkey Cult Valentine's Day special, or do you want the Stash Valentine's Day special? Because you can't get that. That's only for Mrs. Stash.
You cannot get that.
But you can. But
who wants the mustache ride?
But you can get the coffee with 10% off. Heart 10 Monkey Cult Coffee Company.com.
Get that Valentine's Day special. All right. That's it. We'll see you next Monday night. Until then, enjoy a week of Lightning hockey. Till then, this has been We the Thunder. Don't forget to be the Thunder.
That's it.
Good night.